That was the date. So we have not needed jet engines, rockets, oil, gas, public utilities, surface roads, think about this, steamships, internal combustion engines of any sort, for at least 60 years. And if you really go back to the earlier part of the century, we're just plain free energy from Tesla type things, 100 years. But you're stepping on a stockpile of money and commodities and mineral wealth being traded, oil, coal, other uranium, that's worth, in the aggregate, several $100 trillion. The U.S. federal budget is $3 or $4 trillion. And if you take out entitlements and things that are mandatory, it's a fraction of that. So it's the tail is wagging the dog here. So the financial interest, the petrodollar interest, the big commodity trading firms like Goldman Sachs, and the big money folks, that's where the action is. And those are the masters, not the president, not the Congress, not the UN Secretary General, certainly, not the Prime Minister of England, etc. So let's just pull the mask off and just admit that we're living in a period of petro-oligarchs, kleptocrats, klepto meaning theft, like a kleptomaniac, kleptocrats, and that this sort of myth of free markets and a free society and an open and free democracy is just a myth. Because our democracy was hijacked decades ago. Now, on trivial issues like the marginal tax rate or whether you're going to raise or lower payments for Social Security, the President and Congress can fight about that, and it's sort of this show going on, a whirling dervish show of nonsense that goes on. On these issues, they don't want those clowns, is how they view it, dealing with it. So this permanent, unacknowledged covert program has put a lead ceiling in. And only rarely does anything bubble up from there, or down, I should say, to the body politic out of these unacknowledged special access projects. So it became my task to find out how to do that and live to see the next day. All right? Because it doesn't do me any good if I do it recklessly and I'm dead. You can't do anything if you're dead. Well, you can, but it's different. So you're doing other things. So this became really the central issue. And Lawrence Rockefeller, I suggested, look, we need to then, if the president will not do this, we need to get together a group of people, put together this best available evidence, and also assemble top secret folks who will have the courage to provide credible documentation, testimony about what they've known. So I suggested and organized a meeting at a Asilomar facility near Monterey, California in June of 1995. Edgar Mitchell was there with me, Marina Popovich, who is a very renowned cosmonaut of the Soviet Union, some KGB officers were there, and some of the early Disclosure Project witnesses were there. Now this is 95, this is 20 years ago. And Lawrence paid for it, and Lawrence Rockefeller said, look, I will totally support doing this. And when I was with him at the ranch, I said, well, why don't you take a public leadership in this? And I was talking to him out on his deck with the beautiful Remington Native American sculpture that's, with the Native American on horseback, the very famous, of course they have the original of everything. And I said, I need your help. He says, oh no, it's too dangerous for me. He says, there are members of my family already jumping up and down on my feet that I'm doing this much. And I knew he was talking about who he was talking about, the money people in his family. He was the philanthropic guy who just wanted to give away his wealth before he died. That was his whole purpose. Really sweet man. And so I said, well, okay, I told him, you're old, you're rich, and you're a Rockefeller. I'm a nobody. I'm a North Carolina doctor who's trying to do this with no resources. He says, I'll be behind the scenes. And he took his old hands and did this, and he said, it's like a flock of geese. You know, we're all flying together. I'll be back here, and you need to be here. I said, well, yeah, but that head goose gets all the head. They take turns. He said, no, you be up here. It was very comical. I said, boy, this is like, I said, okay, that's what we'll do then. And he wanted to stay behind the scenes, but he was to provide that support, hosted the Clintons. So we had something called Project Starlight that formed before the briefing of the CIA director. That was the code name for what became the Disclosure Project that all of you know about. And Project Starlight, with the AP, the Associated Press sued the Clinton Library and got those documents. Those documents are in my first book. And at Asilomar, we had all these dignitaries, including Kevin Foley and astronaut Edgar Mitchell and Maureen Povich, and all these folks sign a letter to the President of the United States recommending ending the secrecy. It's in my first book. Buy it, get it, see it, read it. And that, however, was the Associated Press a couple years ago sued the Clinton Library and got those documents, and they put them out on the internet. Now, at this point, we knew by '95, the President, with all the cajoling we could do, with all the work Lawrence was doing behind the scene, hosting Bill and Hillary at the JY Ranch for their vacations. A very good friend of the President's, I don't want to name her, but used to live at the White House and very good friends with Hillary, said that Hillary did not want to deal with this at all, but Bill was so interested in it, he would pull out the best available evidence briefing packet that we put together, and we'd be sitting in the private quarters of the White House going through it, and she's this hilarious woman who did a perfect imitation of Bill Clinton, and he said one time they put it out on the floor and she was sitting there with him, and he was going through it going, well, I know all this is true, but they won't tell me a thing, not a goddamn thing. Just like that.